How many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight, and before we get anywhere, because we got some weird news, we may never get to do this again. You never know, and we're serious about that. Right Side Coffee. Trust me, get it now. You're probably going to need it, and you can put something strong into it, too, because
That's the truth.
The news that we got to lay on you after your sip of Right Side Coffee, or at least order the stuff.
I mean, Juan and Jose and the border crossers, they're dying to do the jingle at least one more time because it may only be one more time. So, guys,
It could be it.
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Marvelous. All right, now, scurry back to the corner. Right Side Coffee is available at our website, rightsideshops.com, rightsideshops.com. And proceeds don't all come to us, unfortunately. We have vendors, we have manufacturers, so we get a little tiny piece of the profits, but it's going to help us to promote the show, spread the word. Right now, we're doing about 4 million people a week. We'd like to do a lot more than that. So, and that takes promotion, and we need your help. And we don't want to just ask for your help for donations and contributions. We don't want to do that, but we do have some neat stuff that you can purchase. And you kind of get something. It's it's not.
Yeah, well, it was either do the product store or hire a Vinny. Hey, you guys listen here.
Yeah.
I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is you get to keep listening. The bad news is
we need some money.
Your wallet.
Exactly. Hey, I had a whole bunch of things planned to discuss over the weekend. I mean, I've been thinking, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about this. I have audio cuts. I'm sure you do too, Bill, things to talk about. Mm-hmm. This morning I wake up and I read this. Biden lifts ban on Ukraine using U.S. arms to strike inside Russia.
Well, how does Putin feel about that?
He called an emergency meeting on Sunday. And essentially he said, with no uncertain terms, it looks like we're at war with the United States. Now, understand something, from what I understand, Bill, with these missiles, they have the authorization in Ukraine to use these. They go about 200 miles into Russia, which is pretty darn far. I guess it's like into near Moscow. But
they could sneak one in to get to Moscow, and they could do a barrage.
Yeah, exactly. And but they don't work unless our systems, our people, supply the guidance. Meaning, they press the button to fire it, but if they want to hit a target accurately in Moscow, our guys, our people, have to assist in the launch. That's
right. And Zelensky over the weekend, he was bragging about the 20,000 Russian troops that they've killed, and I'm like going, this is probably the bloodiest, most costly thing that we've been into. And for what? What do we have to gain out of this? I mean, I get it. The Ukraine has certain mineral assets and things. We'll just put it that way.
Agricultural assets, too, like wheat. Yeah.
But okay, you and me don't get this. Right. No. It's the BlackRocks of the world that do. The people that also own the military complex and make the arms and the bullets and the ammunition, they also like to own everything else because they want us to all reside under their one big global mushroom.
That's true.
And it's life under the mushroom. You've heard the analogy before. You're seeing it play out here. And what do you think Russia's going to do? Are they going to give it up? Or are they going to fight?
Bill, I can't help but think, first of all, I think Biden is a sinister, evil SOB, okay? Mm-hmm. You may say, oh, he's an old guy. No. He knew what he was doing. when Trump came to the White House and everyone said, "Oh, it was an
He knew he was
unusually
gonna do it.
pleasant, cordial," and he's smiling, kind of giggling, he knew then that Trump was not going to go into office, into an easy term of office. He was going to make it as bad for Trump as he can. He was going to soil the territory before he handed it over to Trump. And he's doing it. Now, folks, understand something. In Europe right now, it's the number one story. Everybody's talking about it because it's going to affect them first. The first people to get hit if there's nuclear attacks are going to be the Europeans.
Well, it's interesting, you mentioned it's the number one story there. It's not here. The number one story here is that every Republican that's picked by Trump is bad.
Yes.
All Republicans are bad. They're sexual predators.
Yes.
They're this, they're that. Isn't it funny how throughout history, in our history, the Democrats are holy saints, although they don't believe in the church, and they sit there and say, well, every Republican, just look at the dirty laundry. Might I point to Hollywood and the fact that, the elites that are out there and some of these Democratic buddies and Epstein's Island and that list and the Diddy list. Why don't we get to the raw root of the thing? But you know what? They're fighting a war, getting us into a war while they're sitting here calling us names and distracting us.
I didn't play it this morning. I'm not going to play it because it's not verified, although I see him reading it. Scott Baio on the internet. Did you see it? He reads.
No.
He reads the Diddy list. They call it the people who attended the Diddy parties, and all he does is sit there. Scott Baio, the actor, and he reads the names. Just about everybody you've ever heard of who's famous in Hollywood is on that list. He reads it slowly and distinctly and purposefully. He knows exactly what he's saying. Bill, it's amazing, and I don't know whether we live in a business that it can be manipulated right now, technically, but it sure looked like him, and he was saying those things. And if that's true, if those people that he read on that list, if they're involved in those Diddy parties, then they've got a lot to hide. But getting back to what you were saying about the number one story, you're absolutely correct. I don't usually watch 60 Minutes anymore. I used to love 60 Minutes back when Laura Logan and stuff were on. It was but the people who are on 60 Minutes right now, they have no credibility to me anymore. I mean, Scott Pelley, are you kidding me? Nah. The guy's a shill as far as I'm concerned. But the first thing, the show opens up, and Pelley comes on camera. And, usually what they do is they do 3 segments, about 20 minutes in length, 18 minutes, right? And he introduces the first segment, and then someone else comes on and introduces the second. Well, Scott Pelley comes out in the beginning of the program. First thing he does is he does a 3 or 4 minute hit piece on the nominees this week that Trump appointed, Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz. And they, like you just said, they make damn sure that the accusations, by the way, they are accusations. They are not found guilty of situations. These unknown people that you've never seen and I've never seen, right, supposedly accuse these guys of some sort of sexual dalliance. And it's never been proven. In some cases, in the case of Matt Gaetz, it was dismissed by the Justice Department because there was no proof, And Pete Hegseth, that was never an issue until they tried to make it an issue. Some weird claim from way back when in his history. This is a major with 2 Bronze Stars. They never really talk about the Bronze Stars. They dismiss those like it's no big deal. 2 Bronze Stars.
If I go back in my history, and I got a point here, if I go back in my history, well, Bill, let's go back 35, 40 years, and you were at a bar, and you made a comment about something. Okay, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me what I said.
Oh, I know.
Oh, and then my mouth drops. I said that? No, I don't think so. Or it could be
Yeah.
you got in a brawl with somebody.
You're
No,
right.
you know, my recollection and their recollection's off. Now, the only way that I would remember of something like that, if I really did do something that was wrong and there was a consequence for it.
You know, you've heard the expression, he who has no sin cast the first stone.
Right. So what I'm saying is these things are made up, you know, and proof and case in point of that, well, you know, E. Jean Carroll, Trump was convicted of that.
Yeah.
But then it was proven after the conviction, her recollection was a little bit clouded, like she walks out onto a stage drunk because, well, this dress has been hanging in the closet ever since the incident. It was the one I wore. And she holds it out. It's a nice looking dress. It's a dress that looks like a man's suit, a suit coat dress. The only problem with that is that dress came out, you know, like 2018, not when she said the thing was decades ago. So in other words, somebody told a lie and it wasn't Trump, Gene. Miss Carroll, you know, Gene Carroll, was it you? Of course it was.
We are we're being played as a people by the deep state. The deep state and the you know, what do they call it? The military industrial complex.
Industrial complex, yeah.
They are a nervous wreck because Trump is going to come in. First of all, the industrial complex, the military industrial complex, shouldn't be worried at all because Trump is going to build up our army like it hasn't been built up before. They'll be making money, but they make a lot more money, Bill, in a war. They make a lot more money because the stuff is constantly being blown up and have to be replaced. You know?
Well, could that hinder a general that's going to deploy some men and some hardware to deploy it in such a way that it's going to get blown up and these guys will lose their lives, but it's all for honor and victory and glory, and I get a kickback of everything that we got to replace.
I watched a contributor on CBS this morning. Well, I had to go for a test, and I was in the waiting room watching the TV, and they had some military contributor on CBS talking about this situation, and he was almost giddy for the fact that, oh boy, we're going to war. It's the Russians' fault. They're
marvelous.
the ones. Pardon?
It's marvelous. It's just marvelous.
Oh, absolutely. And this you know, he blamed Russia for this escalation because, well, they launched some drone strikes on the Ukraine. They have been, whether you like it or not, whether you like Russia or not, there is no doubt about the fact that they have been restrained with their power because they are a superpower. The Ukraine, with all due respect, militarily, is a pimple on the derriere of the world, all right, compared to Russia. Russia has got nuclear weapons. Russia has got a massive army, but they've been restrained. That's the only word I can use. Now, they're at a point where if all of a sudden Zelensky, in his madness, thinks that he can do something with these long-range missiles and get away with it, no. God help us. God help the people of Kyiv. The people of Kyiv will feel it first. There will be, and I'm afraid to say this, there will be a nuclear bomb dropped on Kyiv, some kind of limited yield nuclear bomb, which will take out much of the city and a large amount of human resources, meaning people, you know. And then, by the way, if I were in Poland, I would be concerned.
Look, Russia might be second fiddle to us in military might as far as planes, missiles, things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I know they are because we have some pretty mean, powerful stuff. But don't let that cloud your vision here, because if you remember Dr. Strangelove, the doomsday machine is basically a nuclear bomb. And the one thing that they do have are plenty of nuclear bombs. And, you know, there's the old scenario, well, if I can't have it, nobody can have it. So you're going to push me to the brink's edge. All right, I'm just going to wipe out the playing field. That's my card.
And
that's Russia's card. If they're pushed into a corner and they have a no-win scenario, why the hell not?
Let's say, hypothetically, there are three people in a room. Two of them are fighting. And the first guy's fighting the second guy, and it's just a fist fight. And suddenly, one of the guys is handed a gun by the third guy. Now, the first guy has a gun but has never used it. He has a bigger gun, but he's never used it. And he wasn't going to use it until the third guy, meaning the United States, handed the weapon to the guy who had no gun. So now, does the first guy just take on the second guy, the one who was handed the gun, or does he take on the guy who handed the gun to the second guy? He takes on both. Here's the situation we're in right now, whether you like it or not. Based upon this frigging lunatic we have, this demented, evil SOB in the White House, there's no other way of putting it, folks. He's a demented SOB. He's putting your children, he's putting your family, he's putting our security and safety, forget the fact that he's already done that on the border. That wasn't good enough for this SOB. He's amped up the situation. He's raised the ante, as they would say. He's now essentially said to Russia, we're at war with you. Now, what does this mean? This means that Russia may say, well, we have no alternative. We've got to send a nuclear missile to New York. We've got to drop a nuclear missile on Washington. We've got to show that we mean what we say. We cannot expect Russia, by the way, to keep being the rational one in the situation. Do you know what I'm saying? We keep hoping that Putin won't do it, even though our side is up the ante.
All you've got to do to the United States, you want to cripple us? Look what 9/11 did. With the World Trade Center, how badly that crippled us.
Oh, my God,
Look how badly we were crippled with COVID. So let's just say that we take out New York, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles.
Oh, my God.
Or one of those major cities, San Diego. San Diego, we got a naval port there. Remember what happened in Pearl Harbor when you go and hit a naval port? Because we have assets, high-ticket assets, sitting over in San Diego. You take out that city and the financial strain on us, well, America can come back. Yeah, come back from the Stone Age because that's where it's going to financially put us. Or we have a breadbasket. We've got the Midwest, the agricultural lands. You just go ahead and you taint that for 25,000 years.
Yeah.
What good are we?
You're right. Absolutely 100% right.
I don't need 7,000 nukes to hurt the United States. I need 1, 2, or 3 well-placed ones, and guess what?
But Bill, it's like dominoes, so they launch one missile, and by the time it has left the silo in Russia, we've launched 2 missiles in our country. And then they launch another 2 missiles in Russia because we launched 2, not 1. And then we tell our submarines to launch their nuclear missiles off the coast. Suddenly, it's not a little measured, controlled nuclear war. It's a massive nuclear war that devastates the globe. There's no control over this thing. Don't ever kid yourself. Do not think for 1 second that there are checks and balances to nuclear war. The only check and balance you have in a nuclear war is to not have one. Once it starts, it's a no-win situation. None.
Yeah, well, you know what? History has proven you've got a toy. Sooner or later, you got to play with it. The nuclear bomb has always been the ultimate deterrent. But you've got to sit there and go, it's not going to go away. No matter how far we advance in society, it's not going to go away. There's going to be a generation that goes, let's fly that nuke. Let's see what really happens.
I'm afraid we're there now, Bill. We have a bunch of lunatics in the Pentagon. We have a bunch of military idiots who are, I'm sure they're giddy as hell with the possibility of going to war with Russia.
Well, it's like a kid with a box of fireworks. Come on, Dad, it's not the 4th yet. Can we light one off? Can we light one off? Well, we got these nukes. Most of the people that are living now weren't around to see what the original bomb did, and it was a far cry from what we got now. And so they saw and they knew and they saw the massive destructiveness of it, and the scars still linger on in Japan. They know damn good well what it does, but the rest of us don't.
For the longest
so are
time,
we going to have to learn a bad lesson?
For the longest time in my life, they would have every so often they'd run a story about a survivor of the Hiroshima bomb, and then when they showed a picture, the poor person would be, a young person at the time of the explosion, now an older person about my age, and they were disfigured, scarred, maimed. Maybe they were left sterile because of the explosion. But you mentioned something about going back to the Stone Age, and a lot of people don't realize this. If this happens, communication as we know it right now, gone. No radio and TV as we know it.
Yeah.
Literally, you're going to be left in the dark. Now, we're in much of the United States of America, we're heading towards winter. And all of a sudden, if we get into a situation where our utilities are damaged or destroyed, this is going to make for just an unthinkable situation. This guy in Washington, his primary goal in life should have been to keep us safe and secure and keep us out of harm's way, especially with less than 2 months left in his presidency. But this SOB, in his last 2 months, somewhere in his demented friggin' mind has decided, all right, if we have to go to war, that'll leave Trump with something to deal with. Never mind worrying about the southern border. He's going to have to deal with a nuclear war.
Forget about Trump. Think about the children, what we leave them.
Oh.
And I know we have a culture out there now that they don't revere children. But you know what I would remind you when I talk about Japan and stuff? There's a story, the story of 1,000 cranes. If you've never heard it or read it, read about it, about a young girl by the name of Sadako. It's a true story. There's a monument to her, where she was the product of what happened when we dropped the bomb there. And basically, in a nutshell, she survived that. Her mother sat there and ran the kids, I think, to the safety of the river. They got in that river that had the soot of everything. She grew, as she grew up healthy and strong. She was an athlete, but one day, she came down with the nuclear cancer. As a young lady that with all this promise, now she's in bed. The story of the crane is different. There's a symbolic thing where they say the crane, you fold these cranes, they're very symbolic. You fold 1,000 of them, you'll get your wish and you'll be healthy. So what her friend did to her, she died before she ever folded 1,000 cranes.
Yeah.
So if you read that story, you're going to see what the aftermath is related from the eyes and story of a child. That's what your legacy you're going to leave these kids.
I was listening to somebody this morning, another talk show, and they were just as concerned, just as upset, and just as angry as I am. And but they made the suggestion that maybe Biden was doing this to hide his family's corruption, that it wasn't really just going after Trump, but he figured that he could hide all of the wrongdoing that he's done and his family has done by focusing the whole world's attention on this war.
Funny you should mention that.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, there was a story that floated over the weekend. I know I floated it to you.
Yeah, I was amazed.
Several months ago, and you said, I haven't heard about that in the news.
Right.
And I was saying Medicare is at risk, because of how it works and everything. And Well, it came out that Harris, Biden, Harris, let's put them the two clowns together. Don't let her out of this one either. They sat there for the Green New Deal. They raided the Medicare, or what is it, the Medicare, Medicaid funds, either way, where you get your prescription drugs from. That's where the money is.
Yeah.
They took over $230 billion to fund this thing that the money hasn't done anything of what they wanted it to do. But what it did do for you is next year, forget about your drug costs being supplemented. Unless they figure out something pretty damn quick. It's got a $230 billion sinkhole that Kamala and Joey Baby caused for you, and it's at the behest, or it's at the feet of all people 55 plus. Even if you voted for Kamala and Joe, you can thank them because they just ruined your life. And it was in the news this weekend, but it was a quick story and out of there because it doesn't look good for them.
Well, let me put it this way. If you voted for Harris Waltz, and your next door neighbor voted for Trump, go next door and give them a cake because you lost, because your guy would have kept this going. Our guy may fix it. Our guy may fix the problem, and he may help you in the long run. But, Bill,
they would have blamed it on Trump, though. If she got in, they would have said, well, it was Trump's fault. All this happened. It was his stupid policies. No, you robbed the cookie jar. You took all the money out of it.
All right, here's the other thing I was thinking. What has to happen today, Monday, in my opinion? I first of all, I think that Trump has got to go on Truth Social and X, and he's got to issue not just a concern over this situation, but he's got to issue a warning to Zelensky and a warning to this lame duck administration that heads are going to roll. Zelensky, as far as I'm concerned, I think Trump should say, listen, you start launching those long-range missiles, you may have your moment of joy in this next 2 months.
You'll be locked up day one of my inauguration.
Yeah. Forget the summer house in Miami. Forget the big mansion in Miami. You're going to go worse than that. I'll hand you over to Putin.
Mm-hmm. For war crimes.
Yeah. No, this is Trump has got to make it known that I'm the guy coming into office. I'm the guy who's going to have the power. Not only, here's the other thing, Bill. I would say to Zelensky, wait a second. You launch those missiles, you're going to have a temporary success. I'm going to turn the entire spigot off to you on day one. I'm going to shut all the funds off, all the promised funds off to the Ukraine on day one and leave you hanging. I'm going to pull out any kind of aid that we've promised you. You're going to be stuck if you launch those missiles.
We're walking a tightrope. And I believe in what you mentioned, what Putin said, is he says it appears we're at war with the United Nations, which means there is a little crack in that door for someone to come forward and talk to him. Unfortunately, Trump is not in office yet, and the Democrats are doing everything to stop him from getting in there. And war is also an option to stop him. So there's no guarantee that Trump can do anything until he gets in.
You know what Trump I think is going to do? If I were Trump, I would say, listen, hold it, stop. I promised would negotiate a peace before I even got into office. Putin did say that I would accept peace negotiations if President Trump negotiated them, if he moderated them. If I were President Trump, I would say, I'll be over this week. Let's do it now. Stop it. Let cooler heads prevail. Before you do anything, let's talk. And I would say to Zelensky, you damn well better be there at the meeting. And you better not launch anything between now and that meeting.
Yeah. I still fear for Trump's life. And because he's flying around in Trump Force One, which is not Air Force One. So, there would be somebody that could sit there and say, now's our chance. He's fleeing the country because of this and that. Get this story out there. And they use it as an excuse they shot at him once. Would they do it again? I don't trust the people that are in power is what I'm telling you.
I would say to Putin and to Zelensky, the meeting will be held in Hungary. That's where Viktor Orban, who is a like-minded soul, actually a guy who is an ally of President Trump. I think Hungary would be kind of a neutral area for them to meet. Although, I think the World War I didn't the Archduke Ferdinand, he was shot, I think, in Hungary. I could be wrong, but and that started World War I. I'm hoping this isn't the beginning of another world war, folks. This is not the kind of war that there's a winner from. I mean, people don't win nuclear wars. It doesn't happen.
No.
Even if you...
Does anybody really win a war? Nobody wins a war.
Somebody just stops, That's about... I mean, even if you look at like World War I, they were running out of funds and they just stopped, But if somebody was truly crazy, they could have probably kept it going right into World War II. As a matter of fact, some people say World War II was just a continuation of World War I.
Well, it was.
Yeah. And, of course, that ended
where they left off, yeah.
Hitler would have continued if he didn't run out of oil. You heard about that they technically ran out of petroleum, and that ended World War II. There has got to be somebody who steps in, and that's Trump, soon. Don't you think?
Yeah, but I would be, if I were Trump, he doesn't walk gingerly. Trump walks into a room,
right. Yeah,
and it's Trump coming. But then again, for Trump to be Trump, he's got to play it the way it is. He's got to do what he does. He can't be a timid guy, and hide behind a beach umbrella in Delaware or something like that.
Do you think that when they talked in that 2-hour meeting on last Wednesday, do you think that Biden mentioned that he was going to do this?
No, I don't think so. I think. Well, let me just further say this.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even know that Biden knew that he was going to do it last week. Not that he's senile, but that is the joke. But there are other people that call the shots. I don't know that Biden really calls all the shots, but he does march to somebody's drum because they probably got certain things on him. He's got his family, Hunter. I'm sure Jill's ass is hanging in the wind too, along with his. And so they got him. And, the powers that be, there's a lot of rhino heads are popping up all of a sudden these days, making noise too. So this faction of the government that's just not good.
Yeah.
They're all sitting there running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off and doing whatever. But they're running lockstep together.
In the meantime, like we said at the top of the show, our media, when I was in the waiting room this morning, the first thing they showed was a clip of a rocket being fired, and they mentioned the fact that Biden had given authorization, but they immediately, I'm talking about like within seconds, jumped into the Trump cabinet appointees. Now, mind you, you have to remember that in Biden's cabinet appointees, he had transvestites and guys dressing in red dresses. He had every kind of unusual person out there was in his cabinet, and the media did nothing at all. It just sort of turned its back. And now we're talking about Pete Hegseth, who's a major in the military, even as we speak, in the reserve. He has 2 Bronze Stars. It was a successful media person. The people say, well, he's only doing he's co-hosting Fox and Friend Weekend. No, he's a successful anchor on television. He's had success. There's a lot of people who will never have the success that he had in broadcasting. Don't minimize it, and he's not. He's written books. He's a smart guy. You want somebody like Pete Hegseth, somebody who has actually had a bullet fly at him in that position. And as far as Matt Gaetz goes, Gaetz is a fighter. He's got like 8 years in Congress. He has been a pit bull when it comes to cross-examining people in hearings, and they don't want him. They don't want him as Attorney General. Like, is it Attorney General or Secretary of State? I get them confused. Anyway, they don't want him. They don't want Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. So they're trying to make it into something which it's bigger than it should be. All right, these guys, they're going to get in there. By the way, Pete, I'm going to tell you, Mike Johnson was on TV this weekend, and he talked about recess appointments. Listen,
I believe in the principle of a new president being able to choose his team, and that used to not be a controversial notion. We're in a time of very divided government and a very partisan atmosphere in Washington. I wish it were not. I wish the Senate would simply do its job of advice and consent and allow the president to put the persons in his cabinet of his choosing. But if this thing bogs down, it would be a great detriment to the country, to the American people. Remember, they just delivered a mandate to the president, an overwhelming popular vote victory and of course electoral college victory, and they have sent the message that America First policies should be the rule of the day. So the persons that the president is choosing will help with that agenda. They will take their leadership in these agencies and they will reform them as the people expect and demand. So we'll evaluate all that at the appropriate time and we'll make the appropriate decision. There may be a function for that, and we'll have to see how it plays out.
I think a recess appointment at the very least should be a no-brainer. You know, that shouldn't be something they have to consider when the time comes. It should be like, you either do this or we're going to do that. Mike, don't be so wishy-washy. Just say what you mean. You know, put it out there. We'll do a recess appointment if the Senate doesn't do the job. You know, either way, these guys are going to be in those offices pretty darn fast. But, you know, Bill, I was sitting here listening to him talk, and I was thinking, I cannot get out of my head the real danger that we're in right now. I cannot get out. I hear him talking about recess appointments and a lot of this stuff. It may mean nothing if we don't have a country. You know, I mean,
that's true.
And it can happen. Folks, this is not something that will fade in over time. You have to understand that in Russia, they could turn around at any time and say, fire. And that's it. That's the beginning. And that's the situation Joe Biden has put us in right now. He should have turned around, speaking of no-brainers, he should have turned around and said to Zelensky, knock it off, let's sit down at a table, let's discuss peace. But has Biden done that? Has Biden said, I want a peace talk? No.
No, he's not going to. Adam Schiff is in the news. You know him, right? You know, he's sitting there saying that Trump is going to use the military against him. He's back to his creative writing, or is he drinking in both?
He thinks he's more important than he is. Let me put it this way. I think Schiff was a liar. I think he did things against the betterment of our country. I think he made stuff off. He really did try to sway elections. He tried to interfere with elections. I think he should be in jail. I think there are a number of people, Bill, who should be in jail.
Well, except for the windmills in his mind, I'd like him to show some proof of that, you know, because he's got no proof. It's creative writing on his part. He's not that creative. It's the same old story again and again and again. So, Adam, where's your proof? I'll tell you what, Adam, you won in a fair and square election. Put your seat on the line. Show us the proof. You keep your seat. You don't have the proof. You give it up. Of course, he'd never do that, but, you know. No, he's a weasel, a kind of guy that you wouldn't hang around with in high school. Never mind want him to be your senator. Wait a minute now. Weasels, they have a higher standard than he has.
That's true.
Just so you know.
Yeah, good point. I don't know what got into me. You know, it's funny. We were talking about Hollywood. Mentioned Scott Baio doing that list, which I think is amazing. He did a list. Can you believe this? He just sat there in front of the camera and read all of these different Hollywood stars and celebrities that were involved in Diddy parties, and the way he read it, it led you to believe that they just weren't there to have coffee and donuts. They were there to participate in the full flavor of a Diddy party, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, and if the people on this list are corrupt, Hollywood's in for some bad times. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw this today. Tom Hanks came out.
I was looking right at it.
Yeah, he came out with a brand new movie, Bill. Brand new movie.
Oh yeah, and
big budget.
It's really raking in the pebbles because
not
less
so much.
than 1%.
Well, and not only that, but the director is Robert Zemeckis, I believe, who did Back to the Future. He did a bunch of different movies that Tom Hanks was involved with before, and this should have been a massive hit. And it's
they
stinking
had
up the
wrong propagandist in there. They had the wrong star. I never thought Hanks was that great. I'm not saying he was bad, but I didn't think he was that great. But he was part of that Hollywood elite. You know what? He started out in a TV series where he played, as a guy that played that he was a woman just to, have a place to stay. So he kind of started out in a woke role, and I guess he had to do that to make his amends to get into the business.
He is. There's a lot of stories going around about him. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to repeat them, but about whether or not he's as honest a guy as he pretends to be. And the finest role I think he ever did, people say it was Forrest Gump. Nah. In my opinion, he did his best work in Saving Private Ryan.
Well, that was good. Yeah.
But when he did it, we didn't know all of these rumors. You kind of thought of him as being a honest, forthright, straight kind of solid American, right? When you hear the stories that have been out there over the past couple of years, you start to think, my God, he may be a different person than what we thought. And I think what you're seeing now with this lack of interest in his movies is there's a large segment of our society that has had it with these Hollywood celebrities. With the Trump election, they came out in force to sink his campaign. Everybody was endorsing Harris. And their endorsements meant diddly. Nothing. Zippo. And
you hear about the lady that was in Iowa, the pollster that did the trash poll there, saying at the last minute that, Kamala's so far ahead in Iowa, and everyone's going, what? And even I said that, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And of course, the results proved otherwise, and now she's resigned, no longer going to be in the polling business. Well, of course not. She was just there to do a hit piece. That's all it was a hit piece, just to try to, get you to think, well, maybe there's a crack in the dike. She was the crack in the dike.
I think Trump wants her investigated.
He should.
Yeah.
All of these clowns ought to be investigated.
Election interference.
But it was so rampant, it's terrible. And, I find it interesting. Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Marco Rubio, you got J.D. Vance, of course, Trump himself.
Yep.
They are attacking every single person, and they're all corrupt, Russian, sexual perverts, you name it. That's what they are. Because they're Republican.
This is the last gasp of a dying deep state, a dying and desperate deep state. I was what was it? A story that I was looking at about social media, and somebody was it Justine Bateman? Maybe it was Justine Bateman who was on.
She's very optimistic now.
Yeah, she really is. Young actress, director, producer. I say young because I think she started in Family Ties when she was like 8.
With Michael J. Fox. Was that his name?
With Michael J. Fox, exactly. And she's now about, 40, 41, and has had success. She's out there, grew up in Hollywood, knows Hollywood probably better than a lot of people. And she was on with Jesse Waters. Listen.
What I'm really excited about is that the political correctness, the sort of woke era is over, because you need You need mob mentality momentum in order to keep that going, in order to threaten people if they're not thinking and talking the way you do, to threaten their lives, threaten their careers, threaten their place in society. You need that momentum in order to do that. And when Trump won presidency again, that cut that momentum off. So this whole woke era is over.
You're right. I mean, they only are effective when they work in perfect harmony together. And now they're all divided and arguing with each other, and they're not on offense. They're canceling each other. And that's probably a good thing. Is it really official? You believe it's official? We're never going back to cancel culture. We're never going back to political correctness. You're calling it right here?
Well, I'm saying you need that. I mean, when you look at mob mentality and the things that have happened, like the tulip mania hundreds of years ago, the burning of the witches in Salem, there needed to be a mob mentality momentum. And if you don't have that, it dies out. And I'm talking about, yes, things have changed politically, obviously, but it's spiritual. It's a spiritual shift. It started a little bit when Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into X, and it really changed when Donald Trump won this presidency. I can feel it, definitely.
I can feel it, too. There's also an excitement. And I don't know whether it's about the decisive victory or if it's about the way he's rolling out these cabinet officials. There's a promise in the air where people are expecting major change. And you're kind of on the edge of your seat because you don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. But people expect it to happen. Are you feeling that, too?
Yeah, for the last 4 years, very acutely, and I know it preceded these 4 years as well, but there's been kind of a pressing down and kind of limiting what people can say. And what happens, too, is you limit what can even occur in society. And so there's been a stagnation. Things haven't been moving forward in the arts, in philosophy, in politics, in medicine, in anything. And I don't mean technically did things, were there technological advances or anything like that. I mean innovation, like with your thoughts, with what is coming into your spirit from God, magic, the universe, whatever you want to call it. That's been stagnated for at least 4 years. And now that's changed. And that's what I'm really excited about. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
It's a brilliant observation. And I've noticed it, too, that culture is stuck. They keep making repeats of every movie. Every TV show's a repeat. There's no creativity in Hollywood, in literature, in the arts. As you mentioned, you've noticed it more than anybody, I'm sure. But it's great to get those juices flowing again and get the spirits unbound. Justine, thank you so much for joining Jesse Watters Primetime. Great to see you again. And I'm glad it's a spiritual revolution.
I think so.
Justine Bateman with Jesse Watters, and it was good to hear him. I think she would know. She's out there and has been there all of her life in Hollywood, and it's got to be frustrating for somebody who thinks of herself as being a creative to see all of this industry out there and it's stuck in this uncreative mode. Every movie is a superhero movie because they don't know what else to do. They forgot how to be creative, and
they like to live behind the persona of what they projected out there. I'm a superhero. No, you're just a squirt, that's right. With sound and effects, and you can't do any of what you put. But they like to project that.
Yeah.
I find this an interesting story only because Trump hasn't taken office yet, and one of the things that they did when he was in office the first time is towards the end, because things were going so well, they dropped a virus on him.
Oh, I know. If you're talking about the same thing that I'm looking at right here in my next story.
The little blue pillows with the bow tie in, that's what it looks like, the monkeypox?
Yes. That's my next story.
Whereas all of a sudden, a new strain of it's spreading like wildfire, and it's hit the American soil. I'm going, whoa, how'd he do? Who would have thunk?
Yeah.
Again, everything that has happened, when Trump is in power or is about to take power, and that Democrats are, well, he's got to deal with this that they've launched on him. Here they are with another virus.
Here's the headline, friends. Severe form of monkeypox spreading like wildfire across Africa reaches American soil for the first time.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you up front is that it's spread through intimate contact, meaning usually sexual contact. So if you happen to be with a partner who has got pox all over their face, it might, I'm just saying, it might be better to abstain, walk away from that situation.
Well, I wonder, it's a viral disease related to smallpox. All right. They say it's less fatal, but either way, it's a nasty disease. It's almost like a scarlet letter on your face.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, is it going to commingle with other types of, viruses, diseases out there?
You sound so jaded. Maybe it's because we had the COVID thing dropped on us, and that proved to be a big phony. Well, I won't get into the whole COVID argument, but a lot of it was poo-pooed by scientists later on. But it took like 2 years for us to experience the lockdowns and the distances and the masks and all of that nonsense. And then it finally, and then we were told, don't take the ivermectin, don't take all that other stuff. And then we're told later on after it's all over, well, ivermectin really did work.
It's funny. You should mention it was a birthday party over the weekend for a granddaughter, but, there are people that are dealing with cancer and different aspects of it. And they're going, boy, I'd like to actually try ivermectin and all of that stuff. This is not an ad, by the way. I'm just saying there are places to go to get it. I do know where you can get it right now, today, and legally with a pharmacist. I don't know if I should give the name of the company or not, but it is out there.
Trump has said when he was. Do you remember when he was president? He had this thing about what do you got to lose. It was like an order that he said. It was like, what do you got to lose? You can try it if you think it'll be good for you. It was a law. I think the Biden administration rescinded that.
Here's the deal on ivermectin, because it goes back a long time. That's a horse medicine. Well, yes, all right, it's a parasitic medicine. But they found with research, and I'm talking about research that goes way back in time, back before the 1900s, the 1800s, and even before, they found it to work with these parasitic diseases, also cancer, which actually has, I'm not a biologist, but there are some crossovers with that into the parasitic reaction, and it's been tested with breast cancer. And it works. Even studies that go to Harvard.
There's another thing. Supposedly it's like 4 cents a pill to manufacture.
3 cents a pill. 3 cents a pill gets you 3 milligrams, from what I understand, from a doctor who has someone in their family that has cancer. Said, yeah, you need to take 2 a day, 12.5 milligrams. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a biologist.
You don't even play one on TV.
I don't even play one on TV. I'm going by the research I've seen, and no, I don't have cancer, but I know that people that do, and I sit there going, well, there is that alternative. I'm not a liaison. I don't do, not a go-between. I just want to make that clear. But I'm saying, if it were me and I had to deal with that, I would sit there and say, you know what? I am going to sit there, because the research that I've seen on it, it's legit.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes back to some pretty big names. It is the pharmaceutical companies and the politicians that are beholden to them that are saying, oh, no. That's hearsay. That's propaganda. You don't want to do that. You're taking a chance there. And, I made it illegal for you. It's not illegal. You can get it down in Florida. And
what's the other thing? Hydroxychloroquine. That's another thing.
You can get that there too. You can get all of that. It's an American family.
The only problem with buying stuff online is, for me, is I really don't know who I'm buying it from or what the hell I'm buying.
See, that was what I was going to say. The place that I saw, they come from American pharmaceutical companies. They are not coming from China. They're not coming from overseas where you might have a capsule with cement in it. That's not happening here. This is the real deal. So it is out there, I guess, I'm not going to, because I don't want to sit there and be accused of spreading anything, but I will tell you this, it wouldn't hurt, to have a safety cabinet of things. I know I keep, amoxicillin, I keep different things in the pantry just in case, if something comes down. I want to beat the damn thing. I don't want to sit there and go, I'm going to die,
Getting back to, where we are now with this administration, and there's a lot of people who are nervous about Trump coming into office. I'm going to play audio from two of them. One from Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki was the spokesperson for Biden, and then she became a talk show host on MSNBC and kept spreading all that misinformation on MSNBC. And now she's concerned. She wants to control social media. Listen.
And no accountability for having disinformation spread, right? And as you know well, and I mean, when I got started in Democratic politics, most of it was like local TV ads. That was what it was about. Obviously, national TV, local print. Those local TV is held to a higher standard of accountability than social media platforms in terms of having accurate information on their platforms. That is crazy. And so it is, how does it change? How are people held to account? Laws have to change.
She wants to go back to having everybody censored, meaning if we're not in line with their thinking, well, it's misinformation and we can't have it on the social media. As we speak, let me tell you a little behind the scenes on Facebook, right? I used to be able, I know you still post it on your Facebook like you used to, but I would post the little paragraph on today's show and the link to get to our show, and I was being blocked by Facebook. So I stopped. So all I do now is say to all of our listeners out there, I say a new episode is online. Just search the show. It's Another Day with Jim and Bill, or Jim and Bill, It's Another Day, and you'll find it. That's all I do because I don't want to give them a reason to stop us from at least letting our regular listeners know that a new show is available.
Right.
Now, X isn't that way at all. That used to be Twitter. Twitter was terrible. Now I post on Twitter, no problem at all. It's there, and everybody gets a chance to find it from picking up that information on X. But she wants that to change again. This Psaki wants it to change. I wanted to play another cut. John Brennan is a weasel. John Brennan was, I think he was the head of the CIA. He has a top secret clearance. Even now, he shouldn't. He is anti-Trump. In my opinion, he's anti-American. He did some very bad things, I think, and I'm not going to go into it right now, when he was a decision maker, let's say. He thinks that Tulsi Gabbard is a problem, that she's connected with Russia. This guy he's just a bad guy.
Director Brennan, your thoughts about Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, Nicole, I think you and Tom Nichols have done a great job just underscoring all the concerns that people have about this appointment. And clearly, Tulsi Gabbard has taken actions and made statements over the past several years that really raise serious questions about her common sense, her judgment, as well as her political sympathies. Cozying up to Putin as well as to meeting with Bashar Assad, I think really does show that she doesn't have the type of perspective that is needed for somebody who's going to head up these 18 intelligence agencies. And as Tom Nichols said, she doesn't have any qualifications. The Director of National Intelligence, that's a really serious position and a very complex and complicated one that requires somebody who actually has an understanding of the intelligence community. It's like an orchestra conductor. of all the different agencies and departments that are involved in the intelligence process. And I don't think she understands even the instruments that are involved in this orchestra, nor has she had any experience at the strategic level of running and leading a large, complex organization. And the Director of National Intelligence is, according to legislation, the president's principal intelligence advisor, the person who is responsible for making sure that the president's daily brief is put together in a very sound and forthright manner, the person who puts together the budget and the priorities of the intelligence community. So I know that this appointment is sending shockwaves here in the United States, but also around the globe in terms of, is this really somebody who Donald Trump is going to entrust with the care and the leadership of the intelligence community? An unserious pick for a serious position.
Tulsi Gabbard will be a breath of fresh air compared to this clown. You know, we had this clown in for years, screwing up our intelligence and doing things behind the back, and some very, in my opinion, subversive things too, Bill. They also knocked Pete Hegseth.
Well, of course they did. You know, anybody that's not left is going to take a bloodbath from the left because we're not in power anymore. They can't be in power because we hold the keys. They don't hold the keys. They have no knowledge. We have it.
Pete Hegseth, major in the reserve. He was, I think, in 2 theaters of combat, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan. He got 2 Bronze Stars. They don't just hand those out, by the way. You know, those aren't just like, hey, you've been a good boy, here's a Bronze Star. You had to do something very risky to get that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's got 2 of them. He is an honest, likable guy who he has tattoos like a lot of people have tattoos. Heck, I went into a store today, and the young lady behind the counter, she was covered with them. It is such, it's almost like I think to myself, in another 20, 30 years, are they going to regret having all those tattoos? Probably. But boy, when they're young, they got them all over the place. And so Pete has some tattoos. But his are patriotic. One is a script from, I believe, the Constitution, We the People, on his forearm. And then he has on his left breast, it looks like a Crusader's cross. You know, well, they call that Crusader's cross white nationalist. They make it sound like it's a racist thing. Here's what he says.
I was deemed an extremist because of a tattoo by my National Guard unit in Washington, D.C. And my orders were revoked to guard the Biden inauguration. Jerusalem cross tattoo, which is just a Christian symbol.
Is that
this is the one.
Is that the tattoo?
Yep, right here. This one is what got me disinvited. I'd never had orders revoked before. I mean, listen, it's a standard deal. You remember after January 6th, everyone was in Washington, D.C. Like Nancy Pelosi had the parking garages full of National Guardsmen. My commander called me a day before, tepidly, and was like, Major, you can just stand down. We don't need you. We're good. I'm like, what do you mean? Everybody's there. He's like, no, he couldn't tell me. When I was writing the book, I reached out to somebody in the unit who could confirm with 99.9% certainty because he was in the meetings and on the emails. Nope. Someone inside the DC Guard trolled your social media, found a tattoo, used it as an excuse to call you a white nationalist, an extremist, and you were specifically by name orders revoked to guard the inauguration because you were considered a potential threat.
How is that? It's a cross.
It's a cross. Pete Hegseth. And by the way, I hope he gets it. I hope he's our Secretary of Defense, because for the first time in decades, we'll have somebody who knows what he's doing in the position. They also made a couple of other announcements over the weekend. Well, they haven't made this announcement yet, but it's leaning this way. Ben Carson, he broke his silence around rumors of him joining the second Trump administration as the U.S. Surgeon General. He said he's looking forward to being a part of the Trump administration, but he's not going to be the Surgeon General, which leads a lot of people to think that he's probably going to be the new Trump HUD secretary. So housing and urban development. That'll be interesting. And I think he'd be a great fit. He's a true patriot. And they'll make some stink about him. Trust me, this is a guy who's a decorated and successful cardiothoracic surgeon. He came from absolute poverty. He and his mom, I think he had a single parent. He had nothing, Ben Carson. And he rose from that level to the highest levels of medicine. And yet they'll make a stink about him being involved again. Watch.
Right. And I think part of what he's saying is, I think what he's saying, yeah, I got a position, but I'm not telling you what it is. You'll find
Yeah.
out when you find out.
Yeah.
So it could be the very one that they don't want him to get, that he's the most qualified for, or it could be something else. You know who else has got something that's floating out there but hasn't been presented with
Who's that?
officially? Well, now, is it Marco who's going, from the Senate into position? Laura Trump is being considered. Apparently, her name's floated out there to take his role.
I think
And
she'd be a
said-
great fit. I think
Yeah,
she'd be good.
it's not official. She hasn't been presented that. She goes, "Oh, if I was, hell yeah." She
Boy,
didn't say it that way, but she said,
would
"Yeah,
that,
she's
would that
good."
would that cause a stink in the mainstream media? Nepotism, insider trading. She should never get a position. I mean, that's
Really,
the kind
I mean, there's never been nepotism in Washington before.
just ask Robert Kennedy and JFK. Also, did you hear we have a new FCC chairman who's been appointed? He's actually a commissioner right now. Brendan Carr is the new chairman of the FCC in the Trump administration, which is a good thing because he will bring some sanity back to a group of people that have been doing some crazy things,
Well, there's one particular company that has really grown from it, and they've gotten they own a lot of properties. I'm sorry, folks. This big radio, they said, well, to survive financially, we need to be, to where one company owns everything. Well, it didn't work. It was better to have just, local owners or regionalized groups, and that was it. And that opened up the ownership thing to a lot of different people, and minorities as well too. But it opened up avenues. I mean, what we've got now, you don't have live radio anymore. You got automation, and it's not there. I mean, with a radio license, you're a public trustee. You are there to service a community. Yes, you make money by entertaining, selling commercials, but a flood happens.
Boy, Bill, how does selling 200 stations to one guy serve the local interest?
Doesn't. And he's going to tell, out of those 200 stations, let's say that they've got 6 full-time air staff, and plus they've got administrative everything down. You got thousands of jobs that just went the way of the Fagawi, and you're sitting there going, okay, what? Well, we can centralize it. We can have one guy do generic tracks, and we'll put it on 100 stations. No big deal. Guy sits there 10 minutes. He's done. He's all over the country, but it's not local. And look, I do those kind of tracks. I know. I'm stabbing myself here, but I'm just saying. Well, I do the best I can to make it sound
as
relevant.
Local as possible. I know.
As local as possible.
And you do a good job, too.
I do a good job, but you know what? There needs to be the local guy that comes in. For what I do, there's a place there is a place for it in that hierarchy, but there needs to be the local morning guy.
But if you don't do it
guy.
right now, Bill, someone else will, because that's where they're at.
Well,
right
that's
now.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Exactly it. So I do.
Folks, we're doing all these other stories, which are important stories normally. But in the back of my mind still is the fear of what we talked about at the top
War.
of the show. Yeah. I know that I'm caught in this loop. I keep thinking, does the world know how close we are right now to World War III? I know the people in our country don't. I see them going to work as normal. I see them just doing their everyday thing. I see them looking at the sports scores. Did you see how the Steelers and the Patriots did? Did you see how the Jets and the Giants did? I see all these people talking about their different football teams, and they don't realize that hanging by a thread over their head is a nuclear bomb. You may say, "Oh, you're being melodramatic. You're being unrealistic." No, I've looked at the news. I've read the news stories. I've seen articles from newspapers in Europe this morning, and they're talking about this because they're petrified. This is a very dangerous situation, but yet over here we have these clowns on the morning news programs and they're just, oh, and did you have a great weekend? Oh, yes. And I'm thinking to myself, you fatheads, you idiots. Instead of talking about the important things that are really happening in our world and informing our people of where we are,
Pending doom.
yeah, they're just ignoring it and whistling by the cemetery, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, Bill, it's very scary right now. It really is. And and I'm not looking. I'm an older guy. You know, most of the road is behind me. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my grandchildren. You know, and my great grandchildren that aren't here yet. You know, and I'm worried about what kind of world they're going to be if they have any world ahead of them. You know.
Well, it is something to worry about. You know, I wonder though if everybody understood the gravity of what's going on, if they would go into panic mode. You know, you need to know, but then again, what's going to happen if they really understood?
Well,
the gravity of it.
I would suggest don't get into panic mode. Get into anger mode. Start calling your representatives. Start calling your senators and tell them you don't want this. You want this to stop. You want him to retract this. You want him to. This is something you have to get involved with.
Well, you know, it's like planning for a vacation. You sit down at the table, you get a notepad, and you have 2 sheets of paper. One sheet of paper is, who do I call? Who do I contact? What are we going to say? The other sheet of paper is, what do we need to survive that we're not throwing our money away on, that if we need it for an emergency, we are ready. If nothing ever happens, we can still use this. You know, so it's because some people go in their pantry, there's all kinds of stuff there. And there's bottled water and everything. But most people, what are we doing for dinner tonight? I don't know. I'll run to the store and get something for dinner because, unfortunately, the Biden-Harris era has gotten us to a point to where we live hand to mouth. We can't sit there and go stock up like we used to. And it's not that there's price gouging. It's because there's stupidity that took residence in the White House for the past 4 years.
Yeah, well, boy, well said. You got to have 2 pieces of paper. You know, what you can do to be proactive and what you can do to be preventative. Help to keep your family alive, you know?
Yeah, and one, she takes the paper to be proactive. He goes and, you know, call it a honey-do list. You go get that list done. And then at least at night when you go to bed, you can have some form of security in your mind that you've done something. You've got a sense of accomplishment and a sense of security. You're never secure because war can break out even under the best of circumstances at any time. But
I see Trump doing something today. I have no insider information. I just see that he's not the kind of guy who's going to just stand around and let something happen. He's proactive. He knows that really, no matter what they may say in Washington, right now, he is the man who has the power. He does, you know, and like I said, all he has to do is call Zelensky and say, knock it off, or when I get into government, the very first day I get into government, you're cut off. You're done. You're toast.
Well, you know, I'll put a happy note in here. Maybe not for a friend of mine up in Detroit because he's a diehard liberal. Had to kill him to sit there and see his lions out there doing the Trump dance.
Yeah.
Trump dance, the YMCA where he does that little
I saw that
cha-cha-cha thing, and it's taking over the NFL, it's taking over the UFC.
Yeah.
Sports people are going, yeah, let's do the Trump dance.
I got to tell you, I like the Lions, so I was happy to see that. Yeah. You know, if you ever see him do, like Bill said, the YMCA on stage, where, you know, Trump's an older guy, so it's him getting down as much as he can get down at his age. And so the players are doing that when they score touchdowns now.
They're doing the dance, and I'm sitting there going, I don't think it's a mockery of him. No. I think they're just having some fun now. Yeah,
I don't think it's a mockery. I think it's a salute. If anything, did you see what happened that Trump went to a mixed martial arts event last night at Madison Square Garden with Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Of course, they're making it sound like they're married now, right? They're just two guys who were friends, and Trump took them to the. He also took, I think, RFK Jr. to the event. So they're at the.
Oh, and they went to McDonald's together too. But
I saw that, yeah, and so, but the guy came down, the champion, the guy who won the event, and he's a big Trump fan. He jumped over the cage, and he had his belt, the championship belt, those big gold things. He handed it to Trump. And then he was the guy who won was so great. Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. I was nervous to be in front of you. I thought, this is amazing. These guys are champions, yet they humble themselves in front of the president. People who've been paying attention know that this guy Trump, he's a tough guy. You may say, oh, he's a rich pamper.
Right.
No, he almost got his head blown off, and he raised his fist.
I don't idealize anybody. I don't idealize Trump. I don't have a favorite pop singer. I don't have, who's your favorite pop singer? Who is she? I don't have one. I don't have a favorite this. I don't have a favorite that.
I do.
But I will say that Trump has earned his status.
Yeah, I think that what I was going to say was I have favorites because they've earned my respect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just listen to their music and like them. They have to do a lot more. I look at Trump and I think, my God, he's proven that he is what he is. I mean, he's gone. They've tried to sink him and his family with lawfare. They have dragged him into court and embarrassed him in front of the world, and he stood tall. He has never backed away from a challenge or a fight. They've tried to take all of his money, all of his resources, everything from him, and he stood firm. And then when that didn't work, they tried to blow his head off, and they came within a fraction of an inch from doing so. And yet when he stood up with his head bloodied, he raised his fist and yelled, "Fight, fight, fight." He did that because he was telling the world, don't give in to this. He knows who he's fighting. He knows the people who are out to get him. Trump is not somebody who's blind. He probably knows a lot more about what's going on than we'll ever know. But he was telling us, don't give up. Now, I think Trump, I really do think that Trump is on the phone today to Zelensky and to Putin, and he's going to try to tell him, look, guys, I know this is a terrible situation. I'm talking to Zelensky, and I've told him if he launches on you guys, he's going to be in for some serious problems, And I would suggest that you hold back on your launching on Kyiv too, and on the Ukraine. Let's kind of have a little ceasefire until I get into office so we can rectify the situation. Don't allow it to escalate, no matter how tough it gets.
Well, only time will tell, and there's a lot of craziness out there.
Yeah.
But the one thing I know that gets you through a crazy day
What's
is
that?
Right Side Coffee.
He said as he sipped his coffee. That's good stuff. Right Side Coffee, medium roast and medium decaf roast.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
It's delicious. If you haven't tried it, go to our rightsideshops.com. Right side, is it rightsideshop.com or rightsideshops? Is there an S on it?
Right Side Shop. No, just not shops. Shop.
It's rightsideshop, singular.com, okay? Rightsideshop.com. And you can check all the stuff out. We have a brand new line of sweatshirts, T-shirts, and cups. Was it Daddy's Home? The Daddy's Home
Daddy's
line?
Home, yeah.
Yes.
I like that. You know. I was going to see if I could get somebody to do it.
It has a certain je ne sais quoi to it.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna see if I could get an artist to paint a nice portrait picture and do the Daddy's Home thing, but unfortunately, sadly, the guy that I used to do a lot of paintings around here, lost him a year ago to cancer. So that was too bad.
Yeah.
But either way,
I can do it for you.
Yeah, well, I don't think a stick figure is going to really quite count.
Well, it's a nice stick figure.
I mean, for Joe Biden, that would work.
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's true.
Daddy's gone.
Daddy's lost.
Joe.
Yeah. Did you hear what happened? He's down in was it Brazil or someplace?
Oh, did we lose him in the jungle?
Yeah. He goes. They take him out to the edge of the Amazon jungle, and all of a sudden, Joe starts wandering off into the jungle.
Bye-bye, Joe.
Yeah, he's still
You know,
lost.
there's some nasty things out there, Joe, like, I don't know, big snakes that could swallow. Well, actually, you know, they don't need a toothpick.
No, that's true.
They really don't.
probably
So,
spit
he
them
might have
out.
been safe. Yeah, and, you know, and spiders and other rodents and reptiles, they might not want him. He's just foul meat.
Anyway,
Even for the rodents.
You know, we laugh, but can you believe this guy? He puts us in jeopardy and then goes on vacation. Did he? He must have done this on vacation. I say, I'm sorry, not vacation. He must have made these rules, these orders, when he was traveling in the airplane. You know?
Well, it could be. I don't know. You know, I mean, I think he lives in a fog. You know, every moment he's up, every time he's laying down, he's on vacation.
He issued them. The word came out yesterday, Sunday. So they planned that it would come out over the weekend when the media was wound down and there wasn't a lot of stuff.
That's how that's what the left has always done. They do a hit squad thing on the weekend. Now Trump's manipulating the news a lot because why don't you get all your cabinet picks out now? He's got them all, but no. He's going to sit there one day at a time, sweet Trumpy. Here comes another list.
Yeah.
And that's what he does, you know, and they're like going, okay, we'll digest this one. Oh, there's another one?
Yeah.
Oh, there's another one.
Yep, that's true. And of course, the media, you know, their ratings are in the tank. You know this, right? Most of our listeners know that. The ratings literally are in the tank. I mean, CNN and MSNBC lost like half of their audience after the election.
Too bad.
And you would think
Really
that they would, somebody in their office, front office would say, all right, we got to stop this partisanship now. I mean, like now. But they continue. They keep doing their partisanship. It's because more important than revenue, more important than ratings is the message. Okay?
Yeah.
That's how it is right now. I think
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I got one question for you.
What?
Kamala lost, right? She's conceded, right?
Yeah.
She raised over $1 billion in campaign funds.
Yeah.
I mean, the most in history. Of course, they blew it all and went in debt, and she's still raising money. Why?
I don't know. She's trying to. She tells people she's trying to help the cause, but she's trying to help pay off the debt.
Pay off the debt, and then what happens to the extra money since she's no longer running that comes in her name?
I don't know. Maybe she's going to buy a house in the Hamptons. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. You know, I'm like, you know, because if I run for an office and you donate to me, and then I spend whatever money or whatever I got left, unless I'm going to run again,
what you're saying
I
is
those funds go to me.
If they get $20 million, pay off their debt, but if they raised $40 million, she makes $20 million on the deal.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Hey, boy,
That's what I've heard before. Don't ask me. I'm not an expert in those kind of things. I'm not an expert in anything. I just have an opinion.
It's a good opinion, and we'll hear more of that opinion tomorrow because we have wrapped this one up, folks. Put a fork in this one because it's done.
We wrapped it up. You got the bow to put on it?
What I do have to say is I pray for our country. I pray that we're here tomorrow to do another show. I know that sounds melodramatic, but we're in a very dangerous situation.
It is a good idea, though. You know, if you don't believe the news, what we're talking about, look it up.
Yeah.
And then when you see it, you know, you might want to call somebody that you haven't talked to in your family for a while and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. Just want to let you know I love you. Boom.
Yeah.
You know, that's all, which is a good thing to do all the time anyway. You should keep in touch with your family, and you should let them know because you never know. That last call could be the last call.
He's a good guy, isn't he, folks? He's a good guy.
Not really,
that Bill Knight's a good guy, I tell you.
Not really.
Yeah,
I have you bamboozled.
No, you don't. I've worked with you long enough. It'll be 3 years of shows on December 16th. Can you believe that? 3 years of doing this? You know? And it's probably because of the high pay that we make.
Oh, you got a nice email from somebody the other day that just discovered us for the first time.
Let me see if I can find it, if you don't mind. You can talk for a bit while I find this.
Okay, so I'm going to talk for a bit. I haven't a clue what I'm going to talk about, but I'm
killing
wait a
time.
Second.
Right. You've never been at a loss for words. Are you kidding me?
No, I have not a clue what to talk about.
Yeah,
I come into every show clueless.
Yeah, right.
Just call me Captain Clueless.
Captain.
It's Captain Clueless. We'll be cruising at an altitude of about 3 inches off the ground.
Okay. Let's see. We got something from is it Jose? He said, just stumbled onto your podcast. Wow. You both are the best source of information. Thank you. I think it's Jose. And Jose, I really mean this. Thank you very much. Maybe it's Joseph. I can't tell whether it's it's one of these long kind of internet nickname type things, and it's all run together. So, but you know who you are if you wrote that. I'll read it again. Just stumbled across your podcast. Wow. You both are the best source of information. Thank you. We thank you for finding us and listening. And all the other people out there in England and Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Asia, Africa, Europe, France, Germany, England, even Russia, to our friends in China. I know we have people in China listening to our program. All over the world, we thank you very much. I don't know how you found us, but we do thank you very much for keeping us at about 4 million downloads a week. That's pretty good. I'm done. I have nothing else to say. I finished. I am upset about what's happening in the world right now. I know that we're probably going to talk more about it tomorrow because I think we'll have more information on what's going on tomorrow because I think the world is awake now. It's the beginning. It's Monday, and it will sink in. What do you think?
No, I think so, too. I mean, today, look, Monday is kind of the day that we kind of, sift through everything and kind of make sense of it. But as we're doing that, more things are going on. Like you say, Trump probably did get on the phone this morning because there's a time difference between Russia and there. And Trump doesn't sleep a normal schedule. So
right.
He might have been up at 2 a.m. going, let's call Vladdy right now and see if we can Putin this to rest. Bad pun.
Listen, I was just looking I'm looking at a story that came across just now. Yes, there will be a vote. Senator Rick Scott claps back after a reporter alleges Mitch McConnell will not allow Trump recess appointments. McConnell is part of that deep state. I know he has an R behind his name, but he has never done Trump any favors. All right, so
there's a lot of rhinos out there. He's an outgoing rhino.
Yep.
So he's not gonna have speakership or anything. So forget about him. And that's what Scott's saying. Forget about him. We're going to do those recess appointments.
Yeah. McConnell says there will be no recess appointments. Yeah. Hold my coffee there, Mitch.
Mitch, go stand in the corner and freeze again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, people. A lot of people don't remember that, but one time he had a glitch when he was doing a press conference, and literally he slipped into the freeze mode where it was like someone paused their.
I don't think anybody's saying about it, but I think what he had was a mini stroke. To be honest with you, I think that's what he had because I saw it and I was going, that's a stroke. But either way,
are we done?
Yeah, we're done. So I think there's only one thing to do, and that's hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Trump won and you know it. Trump won and you know it. The fake news will never show it, 'cause it's true. Trump won and you know it. We got dead people voting, drop boxes and dominion. And facts are facts, it's not just my opinion. The Democrats know how to steal. Come on, man, here's the deal. Trump won and you know it. Trump won and you know it. The fake news will never show it, 'cause it's true. Trump won and you know it. While Biden's hiding in the basement, babbling away on Zoom.
My mental fitness, what I'm doing now.
Patriots fill stadiums, not circles in an empty room. Twitter and the FBI, one day won't deny. Trump won and you know it.
Fulton County were counted more than once.
I bet he took New York and carried California as well. He's done it twice before, and he's gonna win again for the third time in 2024. Trump won and you know it. Trump won and you know it. Fox News won't even show it. It's true. Trump won and you know it. Trump won and you know it. If there's a lie, you're gonna do it. It's true. Trump won and you know it. I know it, you know it, we know it, they know it. Everybody knows Trump won. I know it, you know it, we know it, they know it. Everybody knows Trump won. I know it, you know it, we know it, they know it. Everybody knows Trump won.
This is CRN America.